And I can't say enough good things about our mutual friend Doug Domenech. It was one of the best decisions I made to hire Doug as our Secretary of Natural Resources with his immense experience, but more importantly, his deep love for America and his desire to do what the Constitution of Virginia says, and that is protect the environment for future generations of Virginians as a solemn duty. And Doug has discharged that incredibly well. And Doug, I thank you. Native son of Loudoun County. He's doing a great job for you. Thank you. And it is great to be at Ball's Bluff Regional Park. Part of the announcements, there's, of course, your 3.2 acres that are being preserved in perpetuity for future generations. So many people deserve credit. I'm not going to go through the list again, but many of you have already been recognized. I'm especially glad to be here with Kathleen Kilpatrick, who for many administrations has been in charge of our Department of Historic Resources. She too has this immense love for what Virginia has meant to the Union for 237 years and has done an immense amount of work, even fighting horses, in order to preserve the land. And I thank her for her service, as well as Paul Gilbert. Paul, thanks for all the work you do here and your love for this place and working together across jurisdictional lines. I think it's a really great model for others to follow. And so for you and all of your staff that have been recognized here, I want to give you a shout out and to say good work. And we have so many elected officials. I'm delighted to be here with Joe May and Randy Minshew. I've known them both a very, very long time. They're great public servants. They listen, they legislate well, and have been very helpful to me over these last 3.5 years on many issues. Gentlemen, thanks for your service to the country and to the state. And really to all of you, the word volunteer has come up several times. It is I think one of the uniquely great things about America. We're the most generous country on earth. We give more time, talent, treasure, money, mentorship, foreign aid than any other country. And so many of the people standing here today, from I think from some of our reenactors to many of you that raised your hand earlier, that love and work around this park and with the Civil War preservation groups, you are a great story of America and your volunteer spirit, and to the other elected members, to staff, and those of you just love this park and love what everybody's doing together. I want to say thanks so much for coming. And you're going to hear from Jim Lighthizer as well from the Civil War Preservation Trust. But Jim and I have done a couple of these events over the years, and I've been delighted each time to join people like you and John Now and other people from around the country that have a great interest in making sure that the story that happened in America 150 years ago is going to be retold in a true and accurate way. And there's no better place to do it than the living history of the battlefield itself. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. But what you all have done to focus the attention and to work with us, Jim, over these last couple of years has been extraordinary. Thank you. I appreciate it. One of the things we've tried to do is just generally to preserve open space. Governor Kane did a very good job of that. We preserved a little over 160,000 acres so far. It's been important in helping to meet our environmental goals and also our historic preservation goals. Frankly, in our constitutional mandates, to be able to preserve the great outdoors for future generations of Virginians. I have to admit, I got to enjoy them personally a lot more when I was a kid growing up down the road in Fairfax County and spent a lot of time in parks and camping and so forth. But this current job doesn't allow me to get out as much as I like to. But this is marvelous that we get to do this here today. This idea of battlefield preservation is so vitally important. Virginia is a state of great contrast, but also a state of immense progress. We lead the nation in so many things, from our business-friendly climate to our world-class universities to so many other things, and yet today we stand here to preserve more battlefields, 13 different battlefields, and yet this is the state. It was the capital of the Confederacy, the place where Jefferson Davis resided for 4 years in Richmond, Virginia. It's also the site of the armistice at Appomattox, the site of more of the Civil War battles than any other state. And yet today I think that's why we have such a focus on preserving this and telling all of the story of the American Civil War. It's the reason I think Steven Spielberg chose Virginia as the place to tell the story of Lincoln, why the O'Reilly book of Killing Lincoln was filmed here, and why now the story of the Battle of Newmarket is being filmed as we speak here in Virginia by a production company, because it is where history really comes alive. And so preserving it is a noble and a good goal, and why we've been happy to be part of it in our administration. There are really three key reasons why we thought this was important, and why we've worked with the legislature to help put funds into the trust to do this. And they're all the three E's, I call it, of battlefield preservation. And first is education. I've kind of mentioned this. These are the outdoor classrooms. It's one thing to sit in a room and learn from a blackboard or a video or a DVD, but it's a whole other thing to actually walk in the footsteps of the people who fought and led and bled and died, and maybe now are buried in the vicinity, and be able to walk in those same footsteps. And so much can be taught in these outdoor classrooms of living history. And they remind us a lot, honestly, of the freedoms that we cherish today. You know, even today, we have men and women in uniform in foreign places. I just came back from Afghanistan and Kuwait 2 weeks ago, and had a chance to meet some of the great Virginians from the National Guard that are over there still fighting today. This is a 237-year story of Americans being engaged in the military and doing things for the country. This was a unique war, obviously, in the Civil War, where a neighbor was brought up with arms against neighbor. But the idea of military conflict is part and parcel of Virginia history. We're the home of 19 military bases, the Pentagon, and so much military history. And of course, the Civil War, perhaps more than others, because of so many battlefields that are here. Secondly is the environment, preserving the land where the battles occurred. Also preserves some marvelous and diverse habitats along the trail of hallowed ground to the things that happened all over the state, from Richmond to Appomattox to here to Ball's Bluff. So much of the state was engulfed in the battle that took place here 150 years ago. And so it's important as part of our open space strategy and part of our strategy to protect the environment that these battlefields are preserved. And finally is the economy. Maybe we don't talk about this enough, but it's an important fringe benefit of the education and economic and environmental goals. And that is this concept of Civil War and heritage tourism. It's really a magnet for people from other states to be able to come here, and for them who have maybe only read about it and have a state which has no connection to the great war that took place on American soil, to actually walk through the battlefields and to see the museums and learn from the reenactors and learn of the history. And tourism means an awful lot. It's one of our greatest industries, from Virginia Beach to the battlefields to wine tourism to the military bases. A lot of people come here because this is where so much of the living history that they read about unfolded. And so the more battlefield land that we can actually protect and preserve, the more that we will have people come here so that we can tell the Virginia and American story. I love going to the National Governors Association meetings and talking to other governors, and I get to tell them, you know, our first two governors were Henry and Jefferson. We discovered America in 1607. What's your story? And it's a great icebreaker, you know, to talk to other governors. And obviously, as a proud Virginian, like many of you, I'm delighted to tell that story. And so today I am glad to be here to announce that the Commonwealth has now awarded over $2.25 million in grants to protect more than 1,265 battlefield acres here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. These 13 grants, and Doug mentioned some of those in his list, but you gave him such a round of applause. I'm going to go over it again on the new 13 that you're going to see today. 13 grants, but 12 locations, because Chancellorsville actually gets 2 separate tracks, as Jim will tell you. But it's the Appomattox Courthouse, Balls Bluff, 3.2 acres here, Beaver Dam Creek in Mechanicsville, Brandy Station, Cedar Creek, 2 separate tracts of land in Chancellorsville, Deep Bottom, Kelly's Ford, Malvern Hill, Rappahannock Station 1 and 2, 2nd Manassas, and Sailors Creek. That's a lot of new battlefields that'll be protected with the work that's being done with the foundation. And as you heard, that brings our total to 4,587 acres of Civil War battlefields that have been accomplished through this site preservation fund that I worked with the Speaker and the General Assembly to get done back in 2010. So we've made a lot of progress. The voluntary donations of easements by private landowners has also been huge. So I want to again thank Jim Lighthizer for his partnership with us. I guess, Kathleen, I guess I can do this since you've given me the direction, and that is, in conclusion, in thanking all of you for your partnership in this, I want to call up all of the grant recipients and all of the elected officials that are here. If you'll come up, we're going to do a quick photo op with all those people that were awarded the grants here today, the representatives of the battlefields. And if you'll step up, and Jim and I and the rest will get together and salute you personally for your good work to preserve American history.